There's a certain quarterback prospect that is visiting with the Detroit Lions today. Look at that. Ian Rappaport reports. Tennessee quarterback Hendon Hooker will fly today to Detroit to visit the Lions tomorrow, sources say. Detroit picks 6th and 18th in the first round of the draft. So, Braylon Edwards.
Yes, sir.
What do you think about the Lions potentially ending up with Hendon Hooker as the quarterback? And I'll go another step further.
Okay.
Are we really taking him in the first round?
Ooh. It's a lot of,
it says 6 and 18. I don't think it's necessary to take him in the first round, but I don't know. Maybe you have to.
There's a lot of garnishment on that sandwich, man. I gotta dissect that. Garnishment for garnishment. Let's start here.
Yeah.
Yes, he's a little older. I understand that. But let's process it in terms of what he did last year. Last year, he took Tennessee, a team that, people knew it always had pretty good talent. But they never put it together. He took that team. They go into Alabama. They beat Alabama. They go toe-for-toe with Georgia. But then Georgia, they just couldn't man up. I mean, at the end of the day, you see national championship. Who really could outside of Ohio State's luck? But anyway, he's number one efficiency in the nation. He's the best, most yards per attempted pass, per completion. He's the yardage, the hyper offense, which is pretty much what all of the teams in the NFL are now running. There's some form of Josh McVay or some form of Kyle Shanahan. Like the offense, he's running a pro-style offense. He's already ready. He's up to speed. He's older, so he's already more mature. Like he's not the 20-year-old quarterback that you're going to have to he's not Baker Mayfield, okay? He's not Kyler Murray. He's not Lamar Jackson to a certain extent. He's not a lot of these younger quarterbacks that have to grow and figure it out how to be an NFL professional. He's already he's a young man. He's the elder statesman of his team. He knows how to be a leader. He's damn good last year. You're talking about a guy that was leading the charge for the Heisman after the Alabama game. Like he was number one in the Heisman voting after the Alabama game. Even in the Georgia game where he gets hurt, the loss didn't knock him down out of the race. It was the injury that knocked him out of the race. So if you're looking at all that and you're talking about getting this guy at 18, you get a guy that can learn for 2 years. That gives him time to rehab for 2 years, get that knee right, or maybe a year. I mean, at one point, we were talking about how good Hendon Hooker was. Like, in fact, so much so that it's a guy in the studio not named Ryan Ermanni that likes Hendon Hooker a lot. Fletch, you tell me, what do you think about potentially we already have the position, taking Hendon Hooker, a guy that nobody was talking about in the first round, and all of a sudden he's moved back up to first round contention, 18 for the Detroit Lions. Talk about it, Fletch.
Okay, Lions are going to lose if Jared Goff goes down. If you get Bridgewater, I know you guys made the point last segment. I don't think that they're going anywhere. You're going to be paying Bridgewater max, you think, Bray, $6 million.
Yeah.
You got him for 1 year on $6 million. You take Hendon Hooker at 18. I mean, you're going to be paying him right around that same amount, maybe even less, depending on how you shake out that contract, whether or not he's even able to play. You get a fifth-year option for a 6'4", 218-pound quarterback. I mean, the man had 2 interceptions the entirety of last season with over 3,000 yards. You're looking at a quarterback that ran his entire conference with the team that nobody thought was going to do anything last season. Everybody knows what the Lions can do. You have 2 years left where Goff can do something for you. Why not take a quarterback that can walk in, learn something, has maturity, has the age, and has the size to play in the NFL? I don't see a problem with it. If you're going to take chances, you might as well take chances. And out of everybody else that's there, he's your best option, especially if you want somebody to fall to 18.
Right now I'm starting the LLC, and I'm going to make Fletch the head of Hendon Hooker's fan club. Yes. I'm going to make him the head of, because he sold me. I was like, yeah, 2 interceptions. Yeah, you're right. 3, yeah. I see you, Fletch, with the facts.
No, Fletch, you did make a compelling case. And for the record, I like Hendon Hooker a lot as a prospect. I think both things can be true.
Is it his name, or do you like him?
I like him.
I love saying the name Hendon Hooker. It was like what was that cop back in the 70s, T.J. Hooker on Chips? You guys too young for that.
It's an all-time great name, and I will give you that. But to me, I'm not taking him at 18. If he falls to 48 or 55, which mock drafts have had him, I don't really see him mocked in the first round, or I haven't I haven't in a while, or maybe it's been gaining a little bit of steam, but it wouldn't drive me crazy if they passed on him at 18 and then he wasn't available at 48 or 55. But I will say this about Hendon Hooker. He was a damn good college quarterback.
Yeah, he was.
It wasn't just last season. In his 2 seasons at Tennessee, he was a transfer from Virginia Tech. A combined 58 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. That's a touchdown to interception ratio of almost 12. And we talk about how he played in the SEC, played some of the top-end competition. You look at how he played against Alabama last year. He lit him up for 5 touchdowns. This was a defense, an Alabama defense that had Will Anderson and Brian Branch, 2 first-round draft picks, one the best defensive player in the country, and 2 players that I think the Lions wouldn't mind having. We wouldn't mind having on our team.
Didn't know it that day.
Right. Players that, because Hendon Hooker made him look absolutely silly. Along with Jalen Hyatt, he was a damn good receiver too, but that was a damn good combination. He's obviously got the size, he's got the arm, he's a little old, and he's coming off of an ACL, but he's a quarter.
What does old mean, like, Sam? Like, they say old. Now, Hendon Hooker would be 26 when
26.
He'll be 26 when the season starts, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
All right, he's 26. So the average quarterback now is drafted 21. So he's, 5 years older? I think a lot of guys are 22. I was 22 when I was drafted. So 4 years, he's a pocket passer. It's not like you're talking about a running back who's 26, who would have 1 year left. It's not like you're talking about a position where you come in and, oh, man, like 31, we got 5 years to get this out of you. You're talking about a position in quarterback where, I mean, Aaron Rodgers is in year, we got drafted the same year, 05. He's in year 16, 17, 18. He's in year 18. You know, you're talking about Tom Brady, who just played his last season, 45.
Yep.
Now, you're talking about a quarterback that has mobility, but he's not a mobile quarterback per se. He's a guy that can get in and out of the pocket, knows how to step up, step back, step right, step left, and get rid of the ball. That's not that big of a deal that he's 26 when the season starts. You add 10 years onto that. You give me 10 good years, I'm good with that. And now you add 5 more years. He's still only 41 when it's all said and done. And now that's 15 years. 26 isn't that old considering the position and how he plays it. Now, if he's a 26-year-old Lamar Jackson, well, that's like having a 26-year-old running back. But he's not a 26-year-old Lamar Jackson. He's a 26-year-old pocket passer quarterback. It's not that old.
Absolutely. I mean, he used his running as a supplement. He was a true drop-back pocket passer. Fletch, what do you got?
If anybody's concerned about that injury, too, I'd just like to point out that one of the guys sitting on the desk right now tore his ACL and still continued to play. I would also like to say that
Fletch.
Only reason why he even tore his ACL was because that Tennessee O-line was not protecting him. This Lions offensive line will take him somewhere. He will be able to throw that deep ball. Jamison Williams will make amazing catches. They're built for him. He can run, yeah, for sure. I don't need him to run. Nobody needs him to run.
And I'll tell you what, Fletch, you brought up a good point, because if you're talking about a young quarterback, and when we can argue with the Lions whether they need a quarterback, you obviously have Jared Goff under contract for 2 more years, but he's cheap for 2 years, but he's not going to be cheap, and they might have to extend him sooner if that's what they want to do. But you're talking about if you want to bring a young quarterback, this is a damn good situation to do it. You're going to be protected by an offensive line. You're going to presumably have a good running game, at least with David Montgomery and DeAndre Swift. Next year, you got weapons, Amon-Ra St. Brown. We'll see if Jamison Williams develops. I think that he will. It's a good situation for a young quarterback, especially a quarterback who was highly productive in college. We're not talking about an Anthony Richardson or a Will Levis who are both raw as hell, and both
they're not in his class.
They both sucked in college. Hendon Hooker was actually a damn good college quarterback. He probably would have won the Heisman over Caleb Williams if he didn't get hurt.
They didn't have anybody to give the Heisman to last year. Like, Caleb Williams came in at a very good time where they had to play Utah again in the Pac-12 championship. They ended up beating them in the or they lost to him Pac-12 championship, but he played outstanding. They didn't have anybody to give it to. Blake Corum hurt. Hendon Hooker hurt. Bryce Young losing. Stetson Bennett IV. Give me a freaking break. They didn't have anybody to give the Heisman to, so Caleb Williams stepped up right at the perfect time. That award last year was Hendon Hooker's. It was Hendon Hooker's.
It would have been if he wouldn't have gotten hurt. You mentioned,
and then Blake Corum, and then he get injured.
Blake Corum, and then Bryce Young. We forget he even missed, I think, a game or two. And we saw when he did miss, when they had their backup Milroe in, they almost lost to a horrible Texas A&M team.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting because he's a starter this year. He just looked like DK Metcalf playing quarterback. Like, that's what he looked like. He was huge. He was fast. Like, all I saw him do was run and throw the ball like Anthony Richardson.
And I'll tell you what, if Jalen Milroe is the quarterback for Alabama, it might give a little bit of a window for Michigan to sneak into the national championship party. But we'll talk about that later before we go to break.
Alabama got 7 5-stars in this class.
I
I'm
know.
just throwing that out there.
I understand that. But stop breaking my dreams.
I'm sorry, man.
It's all right. It's all right. But JB, I want to get your thoughts really quickly on Hendon Hooker. We went around the room. JB, I don't even want to talk about whether it's at 18 because I wouldn't want him at 18, but maybe you would. But what are your overall thoughts on Hendon Hooker, and would you want him as at least a quarterback for the Detroit Lions getting drafted this year?
To just have that rookie, quality backup, I would love it, but I'm still not taking him at 6 or 18. If he falls into the second round and we have that pick available right there, of course, I'm taking him the second round. I don't think at 18 you need to reach and take a QB that early, especially one that's not going to be a top 3 QB that you really truly deeply wanted. So I think there's more options there at 18 that you can look around and see better value that you might need. Maybe that Bijan Robinson or another corner or defensive lineman or linebacker. You never know, but I'm not taking him at 18.
And I would agree with you on that. It sounds like, though, that you like him as a player, so we're pretty much on the same page where it's like if he falls 48 or 55, I would probably, if I were Brad Holmes, run to the podium. As long as with your 6 and 18 pick, you solidify some other needs on your team. But at that point, with they've already done free agency, Hendon Hooker at 48, I don't hate it. I'd actually probably love it.
Yeah, Hendon
at
Hooker
this point.
Hendon Hooker at 48 would be great. Can we take a second and give some credit to Brad Holmes? We're just thinking about some things and hearing things all out. One, Jared Goff is cheap this year, but he's not cheap next year, and this is why. He's $31 million this year. He's $33 million next year. I'm not talking about the 33. Jared Goff makes it through this season, and there's another damn good season for the Detroit Lions. Like, they host a home game. They host a playoff game. They win said playoff game. They maybe even win the second game, or they're in the second game. Jared Goff's not playing next year for $33 million. Jared Goff ain't gonna make it to next year because Jared Goff right now, he's doing the Lions a solid because the Lions have let him a solid, and this is where I give Brad Holmes the credit. Look at where the market is right now for quarterbacks. Look at what Derek Carr just got. Look at what Aaron Rodgers is about to get. Look at what Daniel Jones just got. Look at what all these quarterbacks are getting, and quarterbacks, by the way, that these teams don't even necessarily believe in. You're like, Daniel Jones, Dak Prescott. Yeah. So we'll call it spade a spade. The fact that Brad Holmes was able to bring in Jared Goff in this deal for 2 years, pay this man $30 million, well, 3 years now, this will be third year, 30, 31, and 33, as they're trying to figure out and get themselves right. I'm telling you, man, I find a new reason every day to pat Brad Holmes on the back.
Oh, thank God that we have Brad Holmes
100%.
as our GM. 100%.